Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unity Temple in the Plaza, a place where diversity is praised and peace and harmony the rewards. We have a great service this morning. Reverend Sandra Campbell is going to be doing the lesson, and she has a special guest, Mr. Alvin Brooks, a longtime person in the community who has done so many wonderful things to help Kansas City along. On the first Sunday of every month, we have a special series called Spiritual Awareness. And for the next 4 Sundays, the first Sundays, we're going to be doing the spiritual principles of unity. So please join us next week as we cover the second principle, which is the God Spirit is within each and every one of us. Also, on the first Sunday of each month, we have a discussion group after the lesson at 12 o'clock, and you may join that by going to our Zoom check-in place. So now we begin the service with the temple chimes, the opening prayer, Geneva Price, and the call to inspiration. Please join with me if you choose. On this day, we dedicate ourselves to peace on earth. We accept ourselves without harsh judgment and express appreciation for our individuality. We live without fear to meet the events of this day with confidence. We accept others without prejudice to experience a sense of unity with all people. We honor our earthly environment and recognize a oneness with all creation. In harmony with ourselves, our lives, other people, and all of nature, we live this day with a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, and a peaceful spirit. Thank you, God. Amen.
There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. There is a balm in Gilead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Twas grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
It is just wonderful to be back on this platform. I just realized it's been almost a year since I've been in this church, since I've been in this sanctuary. And as the saying goes, there's no place like home. So I feel like welcoming myself home. Thank you for all of you who are joining us today. And I can't thank our staff and our team enough. Duke, Cassie, Christopher, Chad, Cecily, everyone who makes this possible every single Sunday. And a special thank you to our music team today. Hayden Smith, Geneva Price, Clay Kirkland, and Robert Farrago. You know the music is the message, and you bring it every time. I want to give a special tribute to Hayden Smith and Clay Kirkland. This will be their last Sunday with us for a while. We know they'll be back, but we will really miss you, and we know that wherever you are, you'll be making music and making someone happy. So hurry back. You know, I start with my special prayer every Sunday. Lord, fill my mouth with worthwhile stuff and nudge me when I've said enough. There was a little boy who had asked his father, where did we come from? Where do we come from? And the father was really nervous about how do I explain this. So he started telling him a little bit, as much as his little mind could handle, about the facts of life. And, you know, mommy and daddy fall in love. And then the next thing you know, they have a baby. He says, well, my friend Jimmy said they came from Philadelphia. Where did we come from? Wait for it. Today we have a special guest. And as you know, the last Sunday I spoke about the power of love and how love is a healing force. Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said, love is a great harmonizer. And we need that love in our lives, in our families, in our communities right now. So today I have someone special who has brought love in enormous proportions to Kansas City. Alvin Brooks is a legend in our time. And I am glad to be able to welcome Mr. Brooks to our service today. And thank you, Mr. Brooks, for agreeing to join us. We've known each other for many years. I've heard you speak many times. And the last time I heard Mr. Brooks speak was at the Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council. And Mr. Brooks, do you remember you read a poem from one, and of course this is Black History Month, so I have to share with you, from a great African American in our history, Benjamin Mays. Dr. Benjamin Mays was president of Morehouse College, which, as you know, is the alma mater of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I would like for you to share that with us, because when you said it, I wrote it down. And it is so important for us to remember that we only have a certain amount of time, but it's up to us to use that time wisely. Every minute counts. And one way to use our time best is to look for ways to be loving every single moment of every single day. Once you recite that poem, Mr. Brooks, I'd like to tell everybody a little bit more about you and why you're here with us today. So, Mr. Brooks, it is wonderful to have you here today with us
Good
for
to
our
be here
spiritual
with you.
celebration.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you said yes, and thank you to your daughter Carrie. I know one of 5 daughters.
One of 5 daughters,
who helped make this possible, and our good friend and congregant Gigi,
Yes.
who made the connection with you for me. After seeing you on the news last week, my mom and I were just elated, and I said, I know him, Mom, I know him. She says, oh, tell him hello for me.
Oh my
And
God,
so
please.
she was so glad to read
Please
and
tell
hear
her
about
hello
you.
for me too.
I couldn't wait to get my book. It just came out, Binding Us Together.
Yes.
And as soon as I saw the title, I thought, wow, that reminds me of an old song we used to sing in fellowship after every Sunday service, whether it was Bible study or the Sunday morning service or weekday service. We sang, "Blessed be the tie that binds."
Yes.
And you have truly bound Kansas City together in love. So I want to talk to you today about your book. I want to talk to you about Black history. This is the last day of Black History Month for this year. The theme, the family, and you certainly exemplify the ideal family man, not just for your biological family, but your adopted Kansas Cityans like me and many of us who consider you the father of Kansas City for us.
Thank you so much.
We have so many similarities. I heard you speak at the Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council
yes.
about a year or so ago, and I hung on every word. But the one thing that got me most about what you said was God's minute. Would you recite that for us?
That was God minute by the president of Morehouse then, Dr. Benjamin Mays.
Yes.
And it's called God's minute. And you know that's all life is for us, is a minute. And he says, I've only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. It was forced upon me. I didn't seek it, didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. I will suffer if I lose it. I must give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. And that minute to me becomes your Alpha and your Omega, your beginning and your end. And the question becomes, I think, each one of us, not only as we celebrate African American History Month, but in our life, what will you do with the minute that you have?
Well, you have some stories to tell because I don't know how many minutes are in 88 years.
You know, that's something
That's
I
a
may
lot
want
of
to do
minutes.
get my daughter to do some computing to see what that is.
That's a lot of minutes.
Quite a few minutes, yes.
And from what I've read about you and from what I've known about you, from knowing you through the years, you've put a lot of love and a lot of time into every single minute. You know, your story is so captivating. And the one thing that really grabbed me is how our stories connect. And today's daily word is about connection.
Yes.
You know, we're all divinely connected.
Oh, yes.
We don't have to look alike or come from the same place or have the same background or ideologies. If we just look close enough, we see our connection in each other. And I think you've connected so well.
Can I just expand that just a little? That connection that we're. You see, I take my ministry from, if I have a ministry, from Genesis. That after God created heaven and earth and everything therein, the creatures that crawl, the fowl of the air and the fish of the sea, then decided to make humankind. And I added a word, in likeness and image of the Creator. Now, if we believe that in our faiths, the three major faiths, believe we're all descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so whether it's Moses or whether it's Jesus or Muhammad, that if we believe then that we're made in the likeness and image of the Creator, then we're all connected. We're all brothers and sisters, regardless of all, 7, 8 billion of us on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. If the Creator created all of us in that likeness and in that image, then whether you like me or not, I'm still your brother. Whether you love me or not, I'm still your brother. And whether you disagree with me or not, but I'm still your brother. Whether you have a different color, a different religion, gender, whatever the case might be, I am still your brother. If you believe that we're all made in the likeness and image of the Creator. We're connected. So, and it's like hot rice, I guess. You can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of me. And we're stuck together as human beings. And I've tried to, when I was old enough, to live that kind of, and believe that, to live that kind of a life. And that's what I hope I've done. I hope I've remembered that every person I meet is either my brother or my sister, regardless of who they are and where they are. And I've been in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, and Singapore. Been to Africa, Senegal, Mali, and the Gambia. Been to the Mideast, Israel twice, and Jordan, and Egypt. And everywhere I go, those folks, I saw them as my brothers and my sisters. And every time I spoke within those particular countries, I saw it that way. And so Malaysia is heavily Muslim. And Singapore, Buddhist. And in the Mideast, you got, particularly in Israel, you got all of the religions. And so that's my life. Mm-hmm. That's my faith. That's my faith. So this hatred that we see based on racism and homophobia and all those kind of things that divide us, we are brothers and sisters. Exactly. If we are people of faith.
Exactly. I agree with you. Scripture tells us that a house divided against itself will not stand.
Yes.
And in order for us not to be a house divided, we've got to love everybody
That's right.
unconditionally.
Yes.
We don't have to like what they do,
No.
but we need to see everybody in the eyes of God as children of God, because we all are. I love what you said about that. You talked about a Langston Hughes poem that you really like. I'd love to hear that, and I think our audience would too.
Langston Hughes, African-American poet, one of his final poems, I think one of his final poems, written in 1964, and it's called Dream of Freedom. And he says, there's a dream in the land with its back against the wall. By muddled names and strain, this dream is sometimes called. There are those that claim this dream for theirs alone, a sin for which we know they must atone. Unless this dream is shared in common like sunlight and like air, this dream would die for lack of substance anywhere. This dream knows no frontier tongue, it knows no class nor race. But this dream could not be held secure in any one locked place. But today, this dream is in battle with its back against the wall. But to save the dream for one, it must be saved for all. And that's that ending here in the 21st century, here in the last few years, to save the dream for one, it must be saved for all. Wow. But the thing that concerns me, Sister Campbell, is that we live in a system in America that's so structurally racist that it was never set out to include the First Nation people, Native Americans, and those of us who are descendants of slaves. It was never. And so the system is flawed. And so when those so-called founding fathers got together at Philadelphia at the First Continental Congress in 1787 to form a more perfect union, maybe that's why the Liberty Bell cracked, because it was an imperfect union. But can it be perfect? Yes. If we realize that the system is flawed, that it's structurally racist, and that how do you move towards that? You can pass laws, you can have slogans, you can have marches, sit-ins, wait-ins, all kind of ends. Unless you change the structural racist system, and it's identified as that, and we agreed that it is that, then you'll never be able to have total freedom for all of Americans. It will not happen. We'll just be tip of the iceberg, scratching the surface. And am I saying that the laws haven't made a difference? Yes, they have. I'm 88 years old, and the things that I went through as a small child, my great and great-great-grandkids don't have to go through today. But if we really want freedom and equality, as I believe the Creator created us to be the solvers of those issues, and I think that's the challenge that we have, is it not, as people of faith, is that we together, people of faith, can solve the issues that I think the Creator gave us, that we are, of all those creatures that the Creator created, we're the highest. We're next to the angels. Of course, some of us are angels already. Living angels. Absolutely. I'm not sure that I'm one. But I think that the faith community has a role to play in this. And if I might, I believe in that structural racist, American racist system. There are 5 institutions that undergird it. And I started out with economic, political, and social that undergirds that system, that keeps it intact. And then a friend of mine, who is president of Rockhurst University, Father Tom Curran, I was telling him about just what I've shared about the system. And he said, Hal, you got to add religion, because religion weaves itself all through that structure, those institutions, you call them, under that system. And I said, okay, so there's economic, political, social, and religious. And then Murray Williams, who's a member of the Kansas City Star staff, I was telling her about, she said, Mr. Brooks, you got to add the press, but the press has so much impact upon people. So now I say the institution that undergirds that structural racist system are economic, political, social, religious, and the press. And we as African Americans don't control any of those. So we don't have the power to change the structural racist system. So we must depend upon our brothers and sisters of the lighter hue to join us in that struggle, to make a change. I mean a substantive change. I'm not talking about scratching the surface. I'm not talking about with laws and debating and whether or not we all extend the Voting Rights Act and all those kind of things. I'm talking about real substantive change where, in spite of Jefferson's Declaration of Independence, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that we all created equal, that's a fallacy in the minds of those who make the decisions.
That's true. Well, you mentioned religious, and Unity is very well known for being open to all people. And we don't have dogma and creeds, 5 basic tenets that we're all made in the image and likeness of God.
Yes.
And that God is good, everywhere present, all-knowing and all-powerful. We have the capability of being good because we're made in that image. We are inherently good.
Yes.
We believe that we connect with God through prayer and meditation. And we believe that our thoughts create our reality, that we can control some things, not everything, by raising our consciousness through our thoughts. But the most important thing we believe is something I believe exemplifies who you are to me and to many people, is it doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter if you can recite all those or go through the 20 questions in the Catholic system.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you can understand and recite every book in the Bible if you don't practice what you teach.
That's right.
So the 5th principle in unity is that we walk our talk, we live the truth we know, and we make a difference. If I can say anything about you, and before I even got the book, I knew this about you, and all I have to say is the name Al Brooks, and people know who you are because you walk your talk. You spent 10 years on the Kansas City, Missouri Police Force. Yes. You then went out into the community and became more of an activist. You worked with the schools. There are young people who, in your book, they're my age now, but were young kids that you mentored. You had no reason to do that, but you did it because of love, because you saw that you could make a difference. And here you are at 88, and you haven't stopped.
No, I'm not 88. I'm twice 44.
Okay, that's good. Twice 44, I like that. You get second time. Nothing better than the 40s. You can start over. And the fact that you've received so many accolades. You received President George H.W. Bush's 1,000 Points of Light Award. And I remember watching that on TV and so excited because I knew this. I knew Mr. Brooks. And you've just done so much for this community. But I know that you've also had some times that really were testing for you when you were on the police force. I read that when you were assigned to the beat in North Kansas City, Missouri, there was an effigy.
Northeast
Kansas City. There was an effigy hanging and ketchup spread all over it.
From the flagpole at Northeast
High
School.
Yeah, and it said,
Van Brunt.
Alvin Brooks, N-word, go home,
yes,
right?
yes.
And that your fellow officers thought it was funny. So they brought the effigy and put it in the office where you had to look at it every day.
They put it on the second floor by the pool table. And then I slipped it out and put it in the trunk of the police car and dumped it. And the only ones that knew who had done it were the 2 other black officers and myself. Everyone suspected that. What happened to the effigy? What happened to it? God, what happened to it? I don't know who took it. That's what I'm saying. Somebody took the effigy. Now, what happened to it? But it was down on the city dump. That's where it was, that I put it there.
Wow. The title of the book, I have to keep coming back to, Binding Us Together, because you mentioned that we need everyone to work together for the greater good.
Yes.
And there's a friend of yours who asked me to make sure I said hello to you. He said that when he was trying to get on the Kansas City, Missouri school board, you were very instrumental in working with him. His name is Bob Peterson.
Oh, yes.
Bob is a World War II pilot,
yes,
and he's a member of this church. In fact, Bob was the water boy who carried the water when this church was being built. His father was on the construction crew.
God.
And
please give him my regards.
He
I
called me.
I hope if he's viewing, listening today, that Bob, hello to you.
He's looking forward. This will be on Sunday, and he's looking forward to Sunday morning. He's going to see this, and he's going to be so excited to see you, because he had nothing but good things to say. He was so excited to know that you're going to be here, and he's going to be joining us for Courageous Conversations Sunday afternoon when you will be speaking. And he has some questions about what can we do to educate young people in the community so that we can raise up a group of upstanding citizens like you. What can we do with these young people to help them to know who they are and to know that they have the gifts of God and they can be anything that they want to be with the right opportunities?
Well,
And-
I think we have to be role models and role molders for our young people. I mean, they expect certain things of us. And the thing of it is, when you talk to the millennial generation today, even in my own family, they say, "Grandpa, you did all those things." They've heard the stories before the book was ever penned. And we still haven't reached what you talked about 50, 60 years ago. And we're still talking about that. So we still now have Black Lives Matter, and we still have all these groups that are still the same thing. And my response is that because we really never dealt with the root causes of it. And if you don't do that, you will just continue to just be treading water. And we've got to sometimes, America, realize who we are. And we're far from being what we say we are. But it depends upon all 330 million plus of us. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we, of all the people in the world, if America could be and we say this all the time, we're the strongest nation in the world militarily and all and economically and all that. But is that what the Creator would want us to be bragging about? Or would He want us to be bragging about our relationship to each other, that we're all children of the same Creator? Isn't that what God, and that's greater than military might and economic strength and the only real democracy in the world, because all of that, our faith it ought to be intertwined into all of that, and that should be the lead, that we are a nation that has some of everybody, of all faiths in it. The only nation in the world probably that has some of everybody in it, and we ought to applaud that. And because we're all children of that same God.
So how can our religious institutions like Unity, like St. Monica, where you're a member, and other churches, and you're a part of the Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council, so what can we do to help bring about these connections so that we can truly build a nation that lives out its creed? How can we do that?
Well, I think first we have to recognize that the system is flawed. That it's flawed, and it's flawed. It began that way, flawed, and that people in control continue that flaw, and are beneficiaries of that flaw. And the question becomes, as what you've just raised, how do all of us in the faith community, whether it's Unity, St. Monica, whatever the case might be, and I think, first of all, we have to understand why it's flawed, and what can we do to chip away at that big monster of racism and indifference. And I think we have to end up admitting that, and then see what role we can play in chipping away at that, and being our brother and our sister's keeper, and speaking out, even if they turn the mic off, of what's right and what we know the Creator would have us to do. And that's so important, it seemed to me, that we pass that legacy on to our young people, that there's still unfinished business. So I don't have to be with my white friends and gathering pop bottles to get a nickel day, get an ice cream cone and Velvet Freeze at 31st and at Linwood, Indiana, when I couldn't go in to get the ice cream cone. We're beyond that. We're beyond when the only place that we as blacks could eat downtown was at Kresge's and get a hot dog and a segregated hot dog and segregated Coke right off the alley in Kresge's. We're beyond that. So now we can buy homes and we can do all these kind of things. But there's still challenges that the system, that's under all those institutions undergird the system, have to be challenged. And I don't mean storming the Capitol on January the 6th. I mean, it have to be in our minds. And self-examination, I say all this is based on self-examination. Who am I, Al Brooks? How do I feel about all of these things that divide us? And on the checklist, can I say that I am for this and for this and for this, for the common good? I'm opposed to this because of some kind of mixed up whatever that I have towards a person who is of sexual orientation, a person who is Muslim, a person who is Jewish, a person who's not non-Christian, and even some of our Christian brothers and sisters, I'm opposed because they. And I think I'm saying self-examination begins with me. And then we take that into this institution called the church, and the institution called the economic system and the political system and the social system. That I think that's what we have to do. It begins with self-examination. When you say, what can I do? Sit in where the quietude of your whatever and say, who am I? How do I relate to all of these things that divide us? And what can I do? And it begins with me. And then I find like minds who feel that same way, that I've examined myself, and I feel good. I've cleansed myself of that evil spirit that says, because you're this color, this race, or this gender, or what, you're not part of who I am. Self-examination is key.
That's a powerful message, and that's one that everybody needs. When we see something, a flaw in someone else, it's like Jesus said, why are you worried about the speck in your brother's eye when you have a beam in your own? And I want to, as we close, I want to talk about this quote. Pastor William Barber, I know you know who he is with the Poor People's Movement. He says there's something wrong with a church that has nothing to say about the wrongs in our society, about the treatment of the oppressed. So what is our responsibility? We say we're Christians, or we may be Muslim, or we may be Zoroastrian, or whatever it is, but we all have a similar doctrine, and that is that we treat other people as we expect to be treated, like our golden rule. So how do we as a church build the beloved community that Dr. King spoke of?
Yes. And when Dr. King said that, Jacob Hoover had said, you stay out of that Vietnam War stuff and you stick with those Negro stuff in America. But when Dr. King was talking about a beloved community, he's not only talking about America, he's talking about the whole earth itself, all inhabitants, beloved community. Mm-hmm. And I think we miss that sometimes. Sister Cameron, I think first self-examine all of these seats here in unity. If all the members here and in the balcony or whatever, and church after church after church, after synagogue after synagogue, after the mosque after mosque, when we walk through the door of these religious institutions, when I walk through, and then I say, have I really done the self-examination that gives me a right to enter this building of faith? Am I free from all those kind of things that divide us? So when the pews are full and warmed by our bodies, have we really cleansed ourselves in such a way that when I walk through and I feel good about being a Christian because I know what the Creator would want me to be in the likeness and image of that Creator. Mm-hmm. And so, but I have to do, I stress that I have to have self-examination of who I am in relationship to the Creator. And then once I understand that, I will never see you any more, any less than my sister.
Exactly.
You, my brother, any more, any less than my brother. And if you stand on the corner with a sign that says homeless or whatever, that's my brother, that's my sister. And I can't give enough dollars to everybody on the corner. But I can do the best that I can to make it so that we have few people who are homeless.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I do that. I don't say there are those folks are panhandling and begging. I bet that they got Rolls Royces around the corner, but they're just dressed up for the occasion. But all you need to do is go under the bridges and you see God's children under the bridges.
That's right. In
America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. That's a sin.
And we can't just keep passing by and acting like we don't see it.
That's
like
what,
the Good Samaritan story.
Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Well,
who was not Jewish.
Exactly.
He was not Jewish.
He was less than them.
But he did not. But the man that was the side of the road in the ditch or whatever, he didn't ask him about his faith.
Yeah.
He knew he needed help. And we who are people of faith, do we do that? Not realizing in this time and age you have to be careful who you stop and help.
Yeah. Not just faith. You know, now we're talking, are you a Democrat or a Republican? What difference does it
Yeah,
make?
a red state or blue state.
What difference does it make?
Moderate or conservative.
You're a God's child no
Yes.
matter where you live, what you believe in, and what you look like.
And the thing that bothers me, Sister Campbell, is that of those folks on both sides of the House, the Senate and the House, I suspect that today, Sunday, that most of them profess Christianity, and maybe because of this pandemic, they're not in church. But even before the pandemic, they were in church. And what is that for? It's for renewal of the spirit, of your faith. It's to help you do that self-examination that you hear me talk about. Mm-hmm. But then you go out on Monday, and Republican, Democrats, red states, blue states, conservative, moderates, progressive, and liberals. And you do things that are not in keeping with what you just said on Sunday morning.
Exactly.
Or on Saturday in the Jewish community, on Friday in the Islamic community. I don't think God likes that. I don't think God likes that. I think God wants us to be brothers and sisters. I have to harp on that. Wherever we are, whoever we are.
Exactly.
And it's a shame. It's a criminal act for us to have homeless, poor people, uneducated kids, poor health care, poor economic opportunities, poor developments in Eastern Truth and Kansas City, Missouri. And those are the kinds of things I think that we're going to have to pay for.
I do too. Well, I want to thank you. I can't thank you enough. Sorry, everybody who's watching. I can't thank you enough for being who you are and living your truth out loud for the world to hear and witness. You walk your talk, and I am just so grateful that I've had the opportunity to get to know you, to be in your presence, to learn from you, because you're not done teaching us how to be the good Samaritans that we know we are, how to love as Jesus taught, how to live in a world where we treat each other with dignity and respect. And that is what we need. And I know that's what our congregation wants to learn more and to hear more about, and to walk our talk more. And I imagine that we will want to have you back to share. Today, Sunday, February 28th, 2021, can you believe it's the last day of the month? This year is just flying by. Today's daily word is connection, and how pertinent that is for us to be here connected with Alvin Brooks. The affirmation is, I honor my connection with all people. And I think what you're going to hear from Mr. Brooks and from his life, and if you would get his book, Binding Us Together, you'll see the connections that he's made with people from all over the world. The daily word goes on to read, no matter how great the distance that exists between me and the people I care about, I know we are connected by our love for one another. Today, I reestablish and strengthen this connection by reaching out, even if it's only to let someone know that I'm thinking of them. Our connection is also kept through prayer. As I pray for those I care about, I bless them by holding my highest vision for their lives, seeing them as healthy, prosperous, happy, and fulfilled. Whether we're in frequent contact or have fallen out of touch, my connection with my loved ones remains strong because we are one in God, one in love. The scripture with today's daily word is from 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter and 13th verse. For in the one Spirit we are all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit. Today's daily word is connection. And I invite you to see the connection that we're making with all of you today in this service. And remember, it's about connection and not perfection.
thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer.
So let's all take a moment to get comfortable in our seats. Allow yourself to be centered in this moment, in this space, by taking 3 deep cleansing breaths. I read a quote in Goodreads on human connection by Amit Ray. It reads, "We all are so deeply connected. We have no option but to love. Be kind and do good for anyone, and that will be reflected. The ripples of the kind are the highest blessings of the universe." In short, love all, be kind, do good for anyone, and it reflects back to us and ripples out to the highest level of love. This is the power of divine love. We have the ability to participate in divine love. Divine love is strong, it is undying, it is transformative, it is love in its purest and highest form. And through divine love, we are all connected. At this time, I invite you to go deep into your heart space. Imagine your heart is the power of divine love. Sharing love through a beam of light, reaching the hearts of all those that you are connected to, and then reaching the hearts that they are connected to, and so on, until it lights up the world. Take a moment to contemplate this as we go into the silence. As we gently return to this space and to this time, remember, divine love is the highest blessing and can light up the world. And so it is.
I don't feel no ways tired. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me.
O Lord, my God, awesome wonder, consider all the works thy hand hath made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When through the woods and misty glades I wander and hear the birds sing softly in the trees, as I look down from lofty mountain grandeur, I see the brook and feel the gentle breeze. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with sounds of acclamation and takes me home, what joy will fill my heart. And as I bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, oh God, how great thou art, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Well, this is a time of the service when we express our gratitude for everything that we have and everything we're able to give. At this time, I would like to thank all of you for tuning in to this service. The streaming service is going to continue on, even though we will be open to a live audience beginning next Sunday. That's the first Sunday in March. but this will not disrupt the streaming service going out to you, many of you who are all over the world. So, this day we honor with gratitude our great city, Kansas City. You know, a lot of people look at Kansas City like it's a cow town, it's a little Midwestern town that doesn't have anything of value, but they're quite wrong. Kansas City is a marvelous place to live in, marvelous place to visit, and today we pay tribute to our hometown. And at last this morning, I'd like to pay special gratitude to a person that has been a big part of this service ever since we started streaming. His name is Kirkland, and he plays the harmonica. Every Sunday, he brings us through out of the darkness and into the light with his wonderful music. And this is his last Sunday here. He's moving to a small town down in Missouri, Osceola, I think it is. He'll be visiting us on a occasion, and we hope to have him back. But for now, I would like to have him say a few words.
First, I want to thank y'all for giving me the most incredible blessing. I've been able to come into this wonderful hall with these wonderful musicians and sound crew and play almost every Sunday since March of last year. And the time has come for me to move down south to Osceola, Missouri. And my vision is that I will come back from time to time, like once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 or 4 months, and be in town for a few days. Perhaps there's someone in the congregation who has a guest room who would enjoy having a musician guest for the weekend, or stay with a friend of mine or a brother, one of my brothers. But come back up here, rehearse, play a concert, and then be a part of the Sunday service again for just from time to time. The musicians in Unity Temple are just incredible, just world-class musicians. And I wanted to come into kind of incognito when I first started, and it was really a challenge at first because these musicians were so good and this was such a new venue for me, but it's exactly what I had envisioned before I moved back from Denver. And I just wanted to say I have a long experience, like over 20 or close to 20 or 30 years of putting concerts together with my friends. For instance, my annual Beat the Reaper birthday concert. And for my 70th birthday, among the members of band members and former band directors and friends in the music business, there were probably easily 15 gold records represented that evening in that concert. So this is something that I would like to do, is create concerts with the members of the great musicians that have been playing with me on Sunday mornings for the last 11 months. So entertain that vision. I appreciate you listening to me. Again, that's Clay Kirkland, and I love you for all you've given me over these last 11 months.
Now, please join with me in the prayer for protection, and together we'll sing the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And all is well. Now on to the peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator. Family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be